Hello, welcome back to another video of I Am Woman Real Talk. It has been 3 weeks since the last video and so much has happened, and I say that every time, but one day I'm going to sit down and, as I do here, and just talk to you about some of the processes that I have gone through, am going through, and how I look back. And I'm looking back at those processes, even though they've been 3, 4, 5 weeks ago, and really seeing how I've been strengthened and encouraged, and how I've been built, if you like, by those processes and those experiences. And I think any process that we go through, any situation that we go through, it's really good when we reflect, and I'm a reflective thinker, if I've not said so already, and maybe some of you are. I think back and think, okay, how has that process strengthened me? What has it brought to my table that is going to put into and develop my character? And, as I've said, your personality is your personality, but your character is something that's developed. And, I'm a woman that prays. I believe in the work that God does in my life and the lives of women when we invite him in. And his character, it's his character that, is allowing me to be the strong woman and become a stronger woman, and has helped me over the years. So anyway, that's what I wanted to say. So food for thought. Today I want to talk about listening. And the question is today, how do you listen? Do you feel listened to? When you're in a room with your friends or your family, or you're around the table at work, having a business meeting, or you're with your colleagues, how do you feel you are being listened to? Do you feel you are being listened to? And then conversely, the question is, are you listening? And so that's something that I wanted to kind of just, briefly unpack today. It's a long subject, it's a skill, it takes time. But in a world where we are so much more visual than we were, 2015, how many years ago? 2, 3 years ago, with the different ways that we've got to get our message across, whether it's text, Instagram, Snapchat, Twitter, Facebook, WhatsApp, so many different ways that we have to get our message across in many different ways. But the one that I want to focus on today is the talking method. The one where you're face to face with someone in a group, in a small group, a large group. And how is that conversation flowing? Are you listening to what he or she's saying? And are they listening to you? When you go out with your friends, or you're meeting someone for lunch, or whatever it is that you've decided you wanted to do, what's in your head? And I know it sounds really kind of basic, and you think, well, why are you asking that? Or why are we having to even think about it? And I guess before I bring the question, we don't think about it, we do it automatically. But if we really stop to think, and sometimes I think a situation that has happened before that's made us think, I'm not sure if that group of people or if that person is what I need right now because of something that's happened, you will then consider that meeting that you're going to have with that person, or with that group of people, or at work, in a meeting, and you're going to really be considering how that meeting is going to go. So let me put that together. The question I'm asking is, what do you value when you go out and you meet with your friends, when you go out to, for a social? Is it the fact that you can be the one doing all the talking, being the life and soul of the gathering, the party, the whatever it is, you're the one that's being seen or being heard at the table? Or are you the one that feels that you're listening or you're hearing? And I'll talk about that in a moment, in terms of what the difference between hearing and listening is. Are you the one that's going to be doing the hearing, or maybe the listening? Or are you the one that's just going to, or not just, but the person that's going to enjoy going out, but the person that just likes to sit back and maybe just observe? Because in any social situation, and I think the psychologists and the counsellors will tell us that, sometimes we do take the role of the observer. And I'm very much of an observer. I'm a talker, and of course, and as I wouldn't be here. And I'd like to think I'm not a listener yet, but I'm learning to develop my skill of listening. So we all take those different roles, and I do take those different roles. And like I said, I'm very much of an observer, because I like to watch people, their body language, their little idiosyncrasies. I just home in and pick up on those things, and perhaps that's something that I anchor, that I receive, that helps me to be able to, I hope, be a better or contribute to the conversation. So when you go out, what do you value? And then if it's conversation, then what in that conversation are you looking for? Are you wanting to make sure, or hoping that that person that you are with, or that group of people, if it's possible within a group to listen on that level, are you hoping that they will be listening to you? Because if they're listening to you, you will feel valued. And I think that's really what I want to say, because it's not really about, okay, they're going to listen to me, so they're going to give me some good advice, because most of the time we don't always want advice, because we're trying to work out our lives, as at the pace that it comes to us. But sometimes it's just about being there with that person, with those people. And in that meeting at work, it's about, okay, what have I got to bring to the conversation, to this discussion that's going to, contribute to the organisation and to the team. But today, really, I want to talk on the level of the social setting, when you're out with your friends or your family, and what is happening in that interaction. I'm a woman of faith, and I very often talk to you about God, who I call Abba, dear Father, and it means dear Father. But when I call him Abba, it just brings him closer, or brings me closer to him, because he's always there. And very interestingly, in James, partly in the New Testament scriptures of the Bible, it says it's encouraging us that we must be slow to speak and quick to listen. And I guess that's why we've got 2 ears and 1 mouth. But we've all been victims of this. We've all fallen victim to the fact that we're the ones that want to talk. We're the ones that sometimes depending on our character or personality, may I say, we're the ones that want to be heard. We're the ones that want to do the talking. And we know that others are there, but we're not really focusing on the individuals and, what they need as part of that interaction. So the next question to you, to us, is to think about, how are we listening? And what stops us from listening? Sometimes it can be the fact that, we've come with a lot on our minds. There's been a lot going on in our families, in our lives, in our jobs. It could be that we've got, challenges to our bodies in terms of we may be ill or just coming through an illness. So many different outside environmental factors, if you like, let's use that big word, that, can really affect how I'm listening to you or how we're listening to that person. It could also be that we don't feel our best for whatever reason. And again, I guess that's another environmental factor that can affect us listening. It can be because sometimes we're so eager to speak, we so want to say something that we're not listening to what that person is saying because we're busy formulating what we want to say. So before they've even finished their sentence, we're already talking. We've not listened to what they've had to say. And there is a big difference between listening and hearing. And as a speech and language therapist, sometimes I have what we call social interaction groups, and we will explore some of these areas, but certainly not on the level that a counsellor or a psychotherapist would explore those levels, because I'm really looking at what the communication, I'm looking at it from a communication, formally from a communication point of view. But there's a difference between listening and hearing. And listening is when we are hearing, so the words are going in, we're hearing what that person has to say, and listening is when we're actually thinking about the words, we're thinking about the meaning, we're thinking about the nuances of what's just been said. We're listening to the body language, we're watching the body language, we're listening to the emotions in the voice. And if we're really skilled and becoming skilled, we're also listening to the silence that sometimes comes into a conversation. And I really believe that sometimes the silence comes in, and you know it when you hear it. It comes in on a level where you and that person are really connecting. You are listening to them. Even if you've not been able to say anything, you've been listening to them. And then there'll be a chance for you to speak if it comes to that. But again, an interaction is a two-way thing, but it's really focusing on how are we listening. In a day and age or a time when there's so much going on in people's lives and people absolutely do want to be listened to. So how are we listening? And interestingly, are they listening to you? Do you feel that you're being heard? So here's an interesting statistic, because I looked it up. What did it say? Yes, 5 billion people in the world, of which 65% text. Now, that's interesting, isn't it? Because that is telling us, of which, we are one of the statistics, that's telling us that we so want to be listened to, or we so want to be heard, whether it's on our social media, whether it's on, text, or messaging, or however it is, we want to be listened to. So it's so important now that in a time when perhaps there's less conversation on the phone, on a one-to-one, I wouldn't say there's less meeting, I would hope not, because we all do, at some point meet with our friends, but the first place of that conversation tends to be via our social media on our phones or texting or however it is we do that, before actually we have that face to face. So when we have that face to face, round the dinner table, over coffee, over whatever it is, or however it is you've chosen to meet, it could be just a walk and talk. That person is saying to you, I so value being with you that I'm going to take my time. I'm going to take time out of my busy life, not even busy day, my busy life, to share my time with you. And that is something, that really is something. So I believe that in a time when, it is all about, social media and everything that I've just spoken about, I believe that inadvertently and, quietly, we are learning, or we are being forced to develop our ability to hear what someone is saying and then to listen to them. The mornings are really powerful for me. I think I've mentioned that, I'm a woman that really values the morning. I'll be the woman that go on holiday, I want to be up first thing at 6 o'clock in the morning, be the first one down, have breakfast, leave my husband sleeping, and then, have the rest of the day. I love to see the sun come up. If I'm not that tired, it's not all the time, but I really am a morning person. For me, by the time the 12 o'clock, 1 o'clock comes, for me, the day's gone. But that's just how I roll, if you like. So, but the mornings are a time when I have to spend time meditating, time talking to God. And I know He hears me, He hears us, because in Psalms 5 it says, in the morning I will lay out my needs to you, I'll lay out my day before you. And it says, and you will hear, He will hear our voice. So everything in us, He will hear. The emotions that are in our voice, He will hear. If the day begins with so much on your mind and not knowing how you're actually going to face that day, God is saying, if you come to me at a certain time, it doesn't have to be in the morning, but that is a time that I've chosen because I think I've got so much going on in a day. There's just no way that I can move my day without, or conquer that day, or have any sense of control in that day, or leadership in that day, without speaking to the Lord about my day. And so I do it in the morning, because then He says He'll hear me. Okay, so in the next part, we're going to look at hopefully 5 strategies to think about, to put into our pot, so that we can be better listeners. Okay, number 1, I think it's so important to, and it's not new, so nothing is new, but these are 5 of my strategies that I cherish. Number 1, be in the present. We've all done that. We've gone out and we've met with friends and we're not quite there with them because, like I said earlier, we're thinking about what we've got to do next possibly, or what's just happened, or we are thinking about the environment that we're in, or that person that's just walked by, or that pair of shoes that we really liked, or the bag, or whatever, or what we didn't like, or we're thinking about maybe what we're going to eat if it's a restaurant, and so on. So once you've done all of that, because that's just natural, that's just called being human, but remember to be in the present, the here and now, because that here and now, once it passes, that's it, it's gone. And even though we may say, oh my goodness, it's in the past, it's not in the distant past is probably what I want to say, but it has moved into the past. And that moment, that conversation, those words, the sights, the smells, the sounds, that moment is over. So be in the moment, be present for that person, because remember, they've taken out their time to be with you whether it's a one-on-one, whether it's in a group, however it's happened, but that group, that situation has involved you, and there's a reason that they've wanted you there. Okay, number two, if you can, when you are hearing and then listening, and that person is talking about what's going on for them, maybe ask them to explore a bit more. I mean, these are tools in our, that we can use. We don't have to be professional, I guess, is what I really want to say. We don't have to be psychotherapists or counsellors. Just being a friend and being there, like I said, number one, is enough. So questions like open-ended questions like how did that make you feel? Tell me a bit more. I can't imagine what that felt like for you. How's your week been? And really, how's your day been? I know these are questions that we ask sometimes without even thinking by rote. But if you're going to ask that question, then you must wait for an answer and be prepared to hear the words and listen to them, because you're analysing. You're not analysing, but you're just trying to understand what that person or what that person in the group, when it comes around to their turn to speak, what that person is trying to say. Right, number three, the phone. Put the phone away. I know we do, and well, I'd like to think we do, or maybe we don't, but it's time to put the phone away. If we're out and you're out and I'm out, I'm a culprit. It's so easy to do it. It's become part, it's like the third hand, isn't it? The phone, the third ear. But once the phone is out, that's telling the other person, even if it's subconsciously, it's sending out subliminal messages to say that if someone calls, I may need to take this call, or there may be a distraction that comes right at the time when you're about to tell me. The phone rings. Don't be texting on your phone, not at the table. It's hard to do that, particularly when in a group we run out of conversation. Well, do something else. And we're so used now to having the phone as a comfort. It's always become like a comfort blanket, but put the phone away, particularly if you're with another person or in a small group, in a large group even. Those are my thoughts anyway, but put the phone down and let the group know, let that person know that I'm here for you and I'm listening to you. And I'm sure at some point that time will come when you'll be able to talk about how you're feeling, and then there'll be reciprocity. There'll be that time when you both connect in a really beautiful way. And there'll be another time when they say, you know what, it's busy for me, but I really enjoyed being with her today, with him today, because they listen. And that's something that I'm learning to practice in my life, in my immediate home, with my husband, with my family, with my friends. It's really important. Okay, so number four, shall I say, silence is okay. Sometimes silence can feel a little awkward, and then we try and fill it with something. We might comment on what we're seeing, or comment on the food, and that's okay, because they're kind of like fillers. But there comes a time when the silence, even if it's for a couple of seconds, of course we're not counting, but it may feel like minutes, but it's really only seconds. The silence is okay. And because the silence is powerful, because the silence is saying that we're here for each other. There's many times on my journey that, I don't always hear what God is saying, and I'm like, are you there? Are you there for me? What are you saying? But something that came to me a couple of years ago was, and again just recently, you can be driving and you've got your sat nav on, and the male or female voice is is telling you, stay in the left-hand lane at junction 7, turn into junction 7 and so on. And you've got another 10 miles. And while you're driving those 10 miles, nothing is being said. And you're like, is this really happening? Not is this really happening. What I meant to say is, am I going on the right or the wrong route? Am I going where I need to be going? Then all of a sudden, as you come up to the next junction, the voice clicks in. So what the silence is saying is, it's okay, you're on the right route. Okay, and then number 5, most importantly, and I'm really trying to hone this one down, trust me. This one is, whilst that person is speaking, stop trying to think about what it is you want to say, because you're not hearing them, for one, and number 2, you are just no way listening, because you're pre-preparing in your head what it is you want to say. So please give them some space. Try and put your thoughts down. You won't forget your thoughts. They're there. The brain is an amazing brain, and everything you want to say will be locked away or put where it needs to be, trust me. So when that time comes to speak, you'll get a chance to speak. So take your time to listen to them and drop the thoughts in your head and give them the time. So I hope this has been helpful for you. Just an insight into listening and hearing and conversation and social interaction. We do so value those times. And you remember during that really awful time of the pandemic when we couldn't meet? I mean, when we were let out, if you like, we just couldn't wait. There was a bit of anxiety about, what's going on and is everything okay, for those that, believe the rhetoric. But we couldn't wait to meet with our friends and our family again and to hug them again. And let's value that. Let's value that, because we tasted when it was taken away from us. And so the God of all gods, Abba, give us what we need to be able to listen to each other. But I can tell you, the most important thing is that he not only listens to us, he speaks. And that's a video for another day. But he listens to us, not from somewhere millions of miles away or wherever it is we believe that God is. He said he would place his spirit in us, and he will be right in our business, right in our lives, at every stage of our lives. So, that's something for us to remember. And if you're new to this channel and you're new to understanding who God is, it's something to think about. Okay, all the best, and we'll meet again. And please do subscribe, please, if you've not already. Log into YouTube, set up an account, subscribe. Please comment, let me know what you do or don't do, and like the channel. Don't like the channel, just like. All right, okay, take care, and speak to you soon. Bye.